Hey everyone, welcome back. Got a little project today that we're going to talk about. I see a lot of people posting on Facebook asking questions about what type of oil or balancer, oil changes, other similar questions involving the FL350 Honda Odyssey. So today I'm going to show you guys how to do a oil change on your FL350. So I'm going to break down all the tools and kind of some things that help me. So let's do it. So first off, I want to talk about the tools that we're going to use. First, you're going to need a 17 millimeter. I like to take the seat out to get to your oil dipstick or your balancer dipstick. The seat bolts, if they are OEM still, they look something like this. It's a 17 millimeter head, and you can see that it's a little bit different. This one's bent, and I had it laying on my bench. I figured I'd use this, but it actually has threads, and then it has a nice groove cut in it, and then more threads. This is so that you can adjust your seat. If you ever want to adjust your seat, you loosen this up. It doesn't come all the way out. And then you can slide the seat back and forth in the rails, and the rails look something like that. This is on a Pilot, and then you can see on the Odyssey looks something like that. It's easy all the way around. Makes it for adjusting, but just know that this will feel like it's coming out, and then you'll have to thread it out a little bit more. PB blaster is always recommended. The next is a 12 millimeter because the lower skid plate has 6 bolts that hold it on, and you can see right here on this skid plate you're going to have 2 up front near the seat, 2 in the middle just behind the seat, and then you have 2 at the back of the machine, all 12 millimeters. So I already had this skid plate out, so I wanted to show you that. And last will be a 14 millimeter to take out the actual drain plug. We've got a dipstick here, and I'm going to explain this a little bit as well. You can see that you do have some scribe marks on there for filling it up. Now Honda did have a recall. You're not going to want to fill this all the way up. If you fill it all the way up, it's too much oil unless you have a vent mod done that prevents oil from migrating up into the starter and burning your starter out. So the Honda recall is to just fill it to the bottom of the dipstick. So fill your oil, your balancer oil, up to the bottom of the dipstick. Unless you have a vent mod, then you can fill it up to the proper amount. Okay? Oil that we'll be using, we're going to be using a 10W40 4-stroke oil. I'm using a synthetic oil, just what I prefer. But you can use just a regular 1040 4-stroke oil. It doesn't necessarily have to be Honda. Handy funnel. And then I'm going to be using impact to take everything apart, not to tighten down your drain plug. Do not tighten down your drain plug with an impact. Okay? Alright, so you want to take out your 4 17 millimeter bolts for the seat from the bottom. 4 bolts, and then you have 3 10 millimeter bolts that are going to hold in an air shroud similar to this side. I've already got it out, but you've got one on the back, one on the side, and one on the bottom. And then I like to put the bolts back in their holes, that way I don't lose them or confuse them with anything else. Your dipstick is right here next to your exhaust. You can see that right there. And then we are going to get started on the drain pan. So I'll set that down right there for a second. Alright. So I got the machine on jack stands just to give me a little room to get underneath here. Seatbelt out of the way. So I'm going to start with the back, taking them out with an impact. Now I haven't done an oil change on this one yet. Now I'm going to take out the front. so that the middle two bolts are what's holding the weight of the skid plate. I haven't done an oil change on this machine yet, so I'm not sure if anything, what or anything is going to come out. I've had a few of these machines that literally the balancer was empty, so don't be surprised because they do leak oil, or they can leak oil. And then when you get to the last one, be prepared for the weight of the skid plate. It's not really heavy, but it's pretty well built. So be ready when you take the last middle bolt out. And we're gonna set this out of the way over here. Now I've already got an oil catch here for draining the oil. I just want to show you guys where the oil plug is. You can see it right there. It's kind of nestled nicely in behind your drive clutch there. So we're going to go ahead and loosen that. I'm going to use a 14 millimeter to loosen that on the impact. Once again, I'm not going to tighten it back down with this. I'm going to loosen up a little bit, and then I'm just going to take it out by hand because I don't want to get my impact all covered in oil. And there you can see the oil's coming out nicely, just draining. This oil actually doesn't look too bad. I bought this machine and it wasn't running, along with a couple other ones, and wasn't really sure what I was going to get into. I'm also going to do a transmission fluid change video for you guys. Not today, but I'm going to do that in the near future because I've got this skid plate off, and it's something that you need to have the skid plate off for. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this up for you real quick. And we'll set this right here on our drain catch. Alright, so it looks like we've drained all the oil we're going to get out of this. So I'm going to use a ratchet and my 14 millimeter socket to go ahead and put this plug back in. And I'm going to start it by hand because I don't want to cross thread anything in there. And I'm just going to snug it up by hand. And then I don't want to over tighten this just because I don't want to crack anything and have it leak. So I'm just going to snug it up nicely, and that's about it. That's all she's going to get. I'd rather have that bolt leak a little bit than over tighten it. You can look in your service manual, and it'll give you the torque specifications there. One thing to consider too, on your dipstick, like I said, you do have the fill marks there at the bottom. We're just going to go to that first one, so it just barely looks like it has any in there. And then also you got a little rubber O-ring on there. Make sure that you have that. I found that if you don't, you will get oil that kind of splashes up and falls out and gets all over the front of your engine there. So we're going to take our funnel and our oil here, and we're just going to put a little bit of oil in there, and then we're going to go back and check it. I recommend going slow. There's not a whole lot of oil that goes in this. It's a pretty small amount, so I would put a little bit of oil in there, and then I would check it just to see. That way you don't overfill it. And if you overfill it a little bit, you can always take a little bit out by loosening the drain plug. Alright, so I put a little bit of oil in a few times. I wish I could say I just nailed it first try, but tightening the dipstick all the way down and then taking it out, you can see we've got it up to the right amount for the Honda recall. The see that the oil's just up to the very first mark there on the dipstick. So that's where we want it if we haven't done a vent mod. So our drain plug is tightened, our dipstick is tightened down, and we are done with the oil change. Now if this is all you wanted to do today, 3 10mm bolts, those are going to put your air shroud back in, and then your seat, 4 17mm bolts, and then 6 12mm bolts back in the skid plate, and you're ready to ride. I am going to do a transmission fluid change video next, so if you like this one, subscribe so you'll get a notification when I do that. This is a good time to do it. Transmission fluid lasts a little bit longer, but if you haven't done it since you own the machine, or it's been a while, or you just don't know if it's ever been done, this would be a good time to do it. So let me know in the comments if you like the video, or if you don't like the video, or if you want to see me show you how to do something else. Subscribe, don't subscribe, I don't really care. I'm just doing this for fun anyways. So thanks a lot for watching, guys. Happy riding.